Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are going to pop the hood and really get into what makes a car perform. And I'm not just talking about the numbers on a sales brochure. This story goes way deeper. Let's dive in.
You know, we always hear about horsepower and torque. They're like the gold standard, right? But what if I told you there's a better way to get the real story? A way to measure your car's true performance using data its computer is already tracking every single time you drive.
Well, that is exactly what we're going to explore today. This is all about a really brilliant new concept that could literally turn your car into its very own on-the-road performance laboratory.
Okay, so to really get why this is such a game changer, we have to start with the big problem. Why is it so darn difficult for the average person to measure their car's actual real-world performance? Well, the traditional answer always comes back to this beast of a machine, a dynamometer. And honestly, the best way to picture it is just as a super advanced treadmill for your car. It lets you measure engine power without ever having to actually hit the road. But here's the catch, and this slide lays it out perfectly. Dynamometers, or dynos as they're called, they require these specialized labs. They're incredibly expensive, and they're a huge pain to use. So the bottom line is, this whole method is just completely out of reach for pretty much every car enthusiast, tuner, and even a lot of researchers out there.
So, if we want to find a new way, we've got to go back to basics, back to the fundamental physics of what actually makes a car lurch forward. And it really is a constant battle between different forces.
First up, you've got the driving force. Your engine makes torque, that's the twisting force, and the transmission multiplies it and sends it all the way to the wheels. Now, that formula on the slide might look a little intimidating, but all it's really saying is that the force pushing you forward comes from your engine's torque, whatever gear you're in, and how big your wheels are. This is the go part of the whole equation.
But at the exact same time, you've got forces trying to slow you down. You've got air resistance, or drag, pushing against the car, and your tires create what's called rolling friction with the road. And all this formula shows is that the faster you go, the stronger those resistance forces get. This is the stop part of the equation.
And here's where it all comes together. The car's acceleration, what you actually feel, is just the end result of that big battle. You take that driving force, you subtract the resistance forces, and whatever is left over is what's actually moving the car's mass forward. It's literally Newton's second law in action, right on the highway. So, if acceleration is the true measure of performance, how in the world can we measure that on the road without needing some giant, expensive lab? Well, that's where this breakthrough comes in.
The author of the paper we're looking at, Jarud Kunanapadal, put it perfectly. He said the whole idea of measuring performance from acceleration data isn't just a cool theory. It is totally feasible to do it in a real car on a real road. And the secret to making this happen doesn't even require some fancy new hardware. It's a component that's already been in most cars for decades, the electronic control unit, or ECU. You know, the car's brain.
See, the ECU is constantly keeping tabs on all this critical data, but the two pieces we really care about here are the engine speed, your RPMs, and the vehicle speed. By just tracking how quickly those two numbers change over time, we can calculate the car's real-time acceleration. It's actually that simple.
Okay, so having a great concept is one thing, but does it actually work in practice? To prove it, the researchers decided to put the theory to the test with a virtual test drive.
For their test subject, they chose a pretty standard Ford Fiesta. And using only the publicly available specs, things like max power, torque, weight, tire size, they built a complete mathematical model of how the car should perform.
And this is the incredible result. On the left, you're seeing the simulated torque curve for the engine. See how it peaks right around 4,200 RPM? Just like the official specs say. But the real magic is on the right. That graph shows how the engine's torque translates into actual vehicle acceleration in every single gear. Just look at that top curve. That's first gear, where the car pulls the hardest. Then as you shift up to second, third, and fourth, you see the acceleration naturally drops off. This is the proof. The simulation shows that the engine data can perfectly predict real-world performance. So the simulation works. The physics check out. What does this actually mean for the future? How do we get this out of a research paper and into a tool that anyone can use?
Well, this diagram lays out the whole plan. Now, it might look a little technical at first glance, but it's really a very simple and elegant flow. You can see the signals for engine speed and vehicle speed going into a processor, which then spits out a performance graph that gets sent to a display. It's a beautifully straightforward system.
Let's break it down even simpler. Step 1.
A little device plugs into your car's port and grabs that engine and vehicle speed data right from the ECU. Step 2. A small processor takes that data and runs all the calculations to figure out the acceleration. And finally, Step 3. The final results, that awesome performance curve, gets sent right to a display, like your smartphone.
Just take a second to actually picture that. No fancy lab, no expensive equipment, just you, your car, an open road, and a live, accurate graph of its true performance right there in the palm of your hand.
The benefits here are just massive. It's way cheaper because you're using hardware the car already has. It's easier. It's basically plug and play. It's super convenient, letting you get data on a real road, not in some sterile lab. But the most important thing is that it's accessible. This idea basically democratizes performance data, putting a seriously powerful tool into the hands of everyone from the weekend mechanic to professional tuners and researchers.
And that kind of brings us to our final thought here. This is about more than just knowing how fast your car is. It's about a future where every single car is a constant source of performance data. I mean, if every car on the road could measure and report its own real-world performance, what new things would we discover about our machines, about the way we drive, and about the very nature of performance itself? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.